Welcome to the DNA show.
DNA? Dude, are we doing a science show?
No, D is for Dennis.
Oh, A is for Andy.
And N is for and?
Oh, man, nerds. Because we're
yeah.
nerds, dude.
Yeah. Well, good. Then we can talk about comics and movies and pop culture and sports.
Sports. Sports and nerds. Yeah, we're going to make that work.
All right, let's roll.
Batman! Exactly. We are going to talk about Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 3.
Volume 3 already?
I know, man. It seems just like yesterday Volume 1 and 2 came out. Now, this is a crossover that DC did with IDW, because IDW holds the licenses for for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the first volume came out in 2016, I believe. And then a year later, they did Volume 2. And they originally came out as 6-issue limited series. And then, of course, a hardcover, then a softcover. And I think Volume 1 even came out with like a definitive edition or something, which has some extra stuff in it. Not story pages, but just behind-the-scenes sketches and stuff from the artist, Freddie Williams. So Volume 3, I never read any of these until I met Freddie at a convention back in February. It was the last con I did in Texas. I was sitting next to Freddie Williams, and on a previous podcast, I talked about Volume 1, and I think I touched on Volume 2. Anyhow, so I met Freddie back then, and he had him at his table, and, you know, he was kind enough to hook me up with Volume 1, and I loved it. You know, just the team up of Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, two, like, polar opposite things, you know?
Well, that's just it. I was going to say, when they first came out, I'm more of a Marvel guy.
Sure.
However, you know, I do like Batman. Green Lantern on the comic book side is one of my favorites in DC. And, of course, Shazam.
Wow, look at you throwing that subtle... If you didn't catch it, that was Dennis's subtle shade at the Green Lantern movie, because he said, and Green Lantern on the comic side, which right there tells you someone is de-respecting my man Ryan Reynolds.
Nope.
Green Lantern.
I love Ryan Reynolds. He's one of my favorites.
And you love the Green Lantern movie.
Hated that movie with...
Son of a
I
bitch.
actually canceled my subscription to Green Lantern in the comic books after that movie. That's how
They
much
don't
I dislike.
interact.
Doesn't
They
matter.
don't
I was
connect
so
at
upset.
all.
I was so upset. Dude, I'm telling you,
Dennis.
I walked back in after that movie, and the first half of the movie I thought was fine, because now we're getting off track a little bit.
That's okay.
First half of the movie was, I thought, fine. It was the intro, Carol. Oh, I like that. It was very well done. It was very well done. The moment you started getting Parallax, and the moment the villains were introduced, they were the worst in just about any... I mean, we're talking Superman 4 bad here.
Okay, come on.
No.
I take umbrage
You
to that.
should not take umbrage.
Oh,
it
come
was
on.
that bad.
I can honestly say, we will get back to Batman Teenage Mutant. I had no idea this was going to take this turn. I have got to say that, one, it's a damn good thing there's 3 feet of table separating us, and my arms aren't that long.
Mine are.
And I don't want to whack off those headphones off your head. But, dude, I can say I do love Ryan Reynolds. I love Green Lantern. Stole by the book. Was the movie an A-plus movie? Not at all. In fact, let's grade it. CGC grading on Green Lantern movie, Dennis. I hate to hear it, but what do you give it?
Oh boy. Here, I have to grade it in 2. First half of the movie, I give an 8.0.
No.
And then the second half of the movie, a 1.5.
Okay, so that's easy. That's
about a 5.
Added up, that's a 9.5. Divided by 2 is 4.75. So it's about a 5.
About a 5.
Okay, so you're mid-range on it. I was actually going to say I give it probably a 6.5 to a 7. So we're not that far off.
Yes.
Because I actually agree. Like, the first half of the movie, I really enjoyed it. I liked how he got the ring. I liked the Ab and Sur stuff. I liked Hector Hammond. You know, I didn't mind him. I thought the casting was okay. I did not mind him. I did mind, Parallax. I just think for the first Green Lantern movie, out of the gate, they should have rolled straight up with Sinestro.
That I'm telling you, that parallax was about the same as the Fantastic Four Silver Surfer 2's Galactus.
Oh my God! So we agree, because when you were talking about parallax, the first thing that came to mind was Smoke Monster Galactus. At the end,
which I also hated,
because that killed. Because I like Fantastic Four.
I thought the first one was great. Second one, the Silver Surfer, again, I didn't hate it, but I was not fond of it. It just wasn't a great movie. And then when Galactus showed up, I vomited a little.
But that was really at the total end.
It was. So like I said, it was okay. But Green Lantern...
But no, you're right.
I so hated the second half of the movie. It tainted the entire movie for me. And I was so upset. I walked in the comic shop and I said... cancel all my Green Lantern stuff. They thought I was joking. I'm like, no, I am that upset. I hated it that much. There's a reason why Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool went and shot himself for reading the Green Lantern script. And I would be like, dude, I'm there with you.
Did you, so I know what came out after that. Did you pick up Green Lantern Star Trek crossover comic?
Yeah, it was actually the one and only Green Lantern I picked up after there, only because Star Trek... Okay, so again, when that came out, I was like, nope, I'm not even going to pick it up with Star Trek. And then, of course, you know me, I had to flip through it, and I was like, oh, darn, that Star Trek looks pretty good.
It was good. I picked it up.
I'll have to pick it up and read it. I enjoyed it, but I was like, is that enough to bring me back into Green Lantern? Nope, that movie still tainted it, and I have not picked him up since.
So harsh. Okay, what about, now that I see that you cancel comics after a bad movie, I assume you don't get X-Men anymore after Dark Phoenix. Because, I mean, how could you?
Okay,
Dark Phoenix.
Now you're just trying to cut me off at the kneecaps.
Dark Phoenix.
So there's exceptions to every rule.
What do you rate Dark Phoenix? That can't be higher than a 5.
Yeah, it's right about a 5.
Wow, so you don't cancel X-Men, though. I see where you roll.
You should. It's my favorite character of all time. Okay. And it wasn't a bad actress or stuff. It was just the same lousy plot that they did in X-Men 3. And literally, it was the same, right? This is a whole separate topic for another time.
Tangent over.
Batman Turtles. So what I was saying was,
go ahead.
Batman and Turtles, when that came out, I looked at it kind of like Green Lantern Star Trek. I'm like, yeah, these have no business together. I really have no interest in it. And I was like, nope. And then I picked it up and I started flipping through it. And I'm like, this is really kind of an interesting take. So I collected the entire first series and it was incredibly well done.
It was. So I was late to the game. I bought the first issue of the very first series back in 2016 when it came out because it was a number 1. I liked the art. I read it, and then I kind of was like, oh, you know what? I'd rather read this in one solid chunk. And then I kind of just, I don't know, stuff going on, forgot about it. And then, fast forward to last February, a few months back, I meet Freddie. He hooks me up. I like it. And this was the nice part about waiting was I liked it, and I was able to go and pick up Volume 2 because it was already out right away. And then I read that, and I'm like, sweet, Volume 3. And then I'm like, oh, literally, I think like the last issue of Volume 3 just came out towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. Something like that. In the fall of last year, actually, I think it was. And I saw that the hardcover collection wasn't due out for another month and a half, so I had to wait. Came out. I got it. I really enjoyed it. Same creative team. It was written by James Tynion IV, drawn by Freddie Williams II, colored by Jeremy Calwell. So I love that because I love consistency through a series like this. So the consistency was there with the creative team.
The artwork I thought was quite good. The storytelling was captivating.
Oh, the artwork, Freddie's art's really cool. Excuse me. It's really unique. He's doing these nice gray tone washes. So if you ever look at their originals, which you can see some stuff like that in the back of each collection, they show some of the pages. You'll see the nice gray tone washes he's putting down. His storytelling's really cool. It just, to me, it harkens back to like, just the, I guess like around the 90s, it's big stuff, in your face, really nice action, just really good storytelling. His panel flow, this is an artsy thing. since I'm an artist, but his flow from panel to panel to take you through the page is really well done. Volume 3, the basic story is it's a multiverse. So it starts off where Batman and the Turtles are on the same world. So the other stories, they crossed over. So Batman came to their world, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles world, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossed over to his world in Gotham. Well, this story just starts off where they're all in the same world. And what happened was there's this villain named Krang who sees one of the DC Universe's most dangerous technologies and part of a plan to combine the multiverse and fuse it all together. So, Batman's origin in this world is he's with his parents and he's got this little bowl and it has these baby turtles in the bowl and his parents get shot, they do. But, little Bruce in the chaos falls to the ground and the little turtles spill into the sewer ways. And then there's this chemical that interacts with them, and that's how they grow up. And then instead of having Alfred the butler, Batman's raised by oh my god, I'm drawing a blank.
Splinter.
Yeah, Splinter.
Yep.
The rat character. And, he becomes Batman, the Turtles become the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they fight crime. But then they realize something's not right, and you see the other, and this is what I thought was really cool, seeing Freddy's different versions of Batman throughout the book. So he drew like the 1966 Batman costume, the typical, basically the costume from the 70s and 80s with the yellow oval and gray costume with the blue cape and blue boots.
Which for us old folks, that's classic. That is classic.
Yeah.
It really
is. So
he
drew that version of Batman. And then what I also thought was really cool is they introduced the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and instead of Freddy drawing his take of the original Turtles, Kevin Eastman, the original creator, one of the original creators of the Turtles, drew those versions of the Turtles on the pages. So, and I love seeing that. I love seeing books where it's kind of like, this artist that is known for this character, like back in the early days of Image with Savage Dragon, there's a crossover with Savage Dragon and Megaton Man. And Megaton Man was a character from the 80s created by Don Simpson, who was a takeoff on basically, Superman, but with a humorous bent. So he was drawn really out of proportion with, tiny waist, huge muscular guy, kind of a doofish type character, Heart of Gold, of course, Megaton Man. So Eric Larson teamed Savage Dragon up with Megaton Man in this one shot, and this is before computers and stuff. So Eric laid out the whole book and drew his Savage Dragon characters and left space for the Megaton characters, and then mailed the pages to Don to draw in Megaton Man and his cast of characters, and Don would mail them back, and it was just a great collaboration. So that really, this third volume of Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has that feel with Kevin Eastman stepping in to draw his Turtles.
That's awesome.
And they're in black and white too, which I thought was so cool. So like the whole book's in color, but when Kevin Eastman's Turtles come into the story from that universe, they're in black and white, gray tone.
Yep.
Because that's how the Turtles were back in the 80s. So it's just a really fun story of how they have a certain amount of time to separate the worlds and get them back to normal. So Batman's back in basically the DC universe, and the Turtles are back in their universe, and everything is basically put right.
Right. So these aren't just one-off stories. It's basically a trilogy.
Yeah.
The first one was, there's a reason why it was set there. The second one, Gotham, the reason it was set there. And then this one. And you think it pulled it off?
Oh, it pulled it off fantastic. And I'm assuming at some point DC, I think they're leaving money on the table if they don't do this, because I'd buy it. If I was DC, I would do the ultimate version reprint of all 3 volumes collected together in one big book. So that's 18 issues of comics, one big book, but I would also print it oversized. So instead of normal comic size, which is roughly 7 by 10, or 6 3/4 by 10, I'd print it, a nice 8 by 12. So it's oversized. I would chock full the back of it full of extras. I know in the definitive collection of the first volume of Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, after the 6 issues in the back, they did show the whole first issue in black and white of Freddy's art. Hell, in a definitive collection, I'd have the first 18 issues up front, and then I'd have them reprinted in the back, all in black and white, just to showcase Freddy's art because of all the gray tones and stuff he did.
So look kind of like an oversized omnibus.
Oh, yeah. If that doesn't come out from DC next year, I just think they're leaving money on the table because I think it would be such a great package. And, you got guys like me who are so into the art, I'd buy it just to have on my shelf next to the first 3 volumes.
So. Oh, awesome. So what would you give it for a rating?
Oh, this I'd go with probably a 8, straight up 8, 8.2 maybe. If you're a fan of Batman, you're going to love it. If you're a fan of the Turtles, you're definitely going to love it. So many different artists have drawn each one of these iconic characters. Freddy definitely has a unique style. He puts his stamp on Batman. You look at it, you're like, that's a Freddie Williams Batman. He definitely does a version of the Turtles that I really, really enjoy. I mean, I've seen other artists draw the Turtles at IDW, and I think they're cool. They're a little more cartoony. Freddy's are a little more grounded as it can be for the, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And, I think writing-wise and story-wise, it's just really good, fun. And that's what I look for in comics, just really good, fun comics. They're not going to... It's not... I read... Not to go off on a tangent, but I read a graphic novel called The Green River Killer. If I remember correctly, it came out over 10 years ago. And The Green River Killer is about a serial killer. In... it's a real story about a serial killer and how he was caught. I love stuff like that too. I wouldn't necessarily say that's fun and lighthearted. Yep. But this is. So
good.
I would definitely
everybody
give this a read.
Give it a read. I would say. Well, Andy called me up the other week and he goes, "Hey, all right, just watch this really good movie." Now, normally we like to keep up on new movies and, we go to the new releases and stuff. But with the way things are right now, there are no new releases. So, we're kind of stuck sometimes going, hey, this came out. Well, he called up, he goes, Sleepless. I'm like, what about it? Did you like it? I'm like, well, I haven't seen it.
Did you even know what it was?
I just watched it. Vaguely, once you said that it was Jamie Foxx, I'm like, oh, kind of remember. Never saw it. Don't know much about it.
And that's what, the thing that was... So I was just going through Netflix, and I see Sleepless, and I see Jamie Foxx, and nothing. No bells are going off or anything. So I watched the trailer, and I'm like, this looks really cool. Why didn't I see this in the theater? Because
it's kind of Bad Boys-ish.
I'm a movie guy, yeah. And then I see it came out in 2017. So I'm assuming whenever it came out, I think it was in the fall, I just missed it. Because straight up, I go to probably one movie a week. So I probably just missed it. It just fell through the cracks.
It never hit the radar. So he goes, I just finished watching it. You need to watch it. We're going to have to put this on the podcast. I'm like, okay. So of course I did. Sat down and watched it. I was like, wow. Even my wife sat down. She goes, what's this? I said, Sleepless. Andy says we need to watch it. What's
and right about? Then she knows we need to watch it. She's like, oh, let me get the popcorn, Dennis. Or it's not one of your reviews, it's Andy's, and I take that much more seriously.
Or she goes and grabs her crochet needles and says, well, it's time to crochet.
It's time to get back to work on that blanket.
Yeah, which she did. But she did watch it. And, considering we had just watched, The Bad Boys not too long ago, all 3 movies and stuff, I sat down and watched them back to back to back, and I was like, okay, this ought to be kind of fun. It wound up being a really decent movie, but as soon as it started up, I'm like, Jamie Foxx. Love Jamie Foxx. And then I saw Dermot Mulroney, and I was like, I'm watching Shameless right now. My wife and her sister, that's one of the ones they watch. So, I'm not finished with it. So I was like, oh, wow, I just literally saw him on there.
He's in Shameless?
Yeah, he plays the girlfriend, the boyfriend, who actually...
He's not from season 1 of Shameless, though.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No. I think it's like season 6. Yeah. So, and then I was like, oh, and then his wife's Gabrielle Union, and I was like, oh, bring it on, and I was like, oh, wow. So I'm like, there's a lot of really cool ones.
Now, little known fact, did you know before Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine, they were looking at Mulroney there?
To play Wolverine?
Yeah.
Huh.
In fact, if I
I've
remember
got my
correctly,
pondering face on right now.
I'll have to Google. That's 20 years ago. If I remember correctly, it was because of a conflict that he actually bailed, and then Hugh Jackman was cast.
Ha! Maybe best bail ever. I mean,
Possibly. I mean, they're both really good actors, and it's hard to think of anybody else in that role.
I know.
Well, the thing about Sleepless is, because, Dennis did, compare it in a way to Bad Boys, there's no comedy in it. It's straight up dramatic action. That's a pretty short runtime, too, for movies these days. I think it's only about a straight up hour and a half, which I kind of like, because to me...
It was to the point.
It's an hour 35. So to me, I'll take a nice condensed, to the point, cut out all the BS, leave it on the editing room floor any day over something where I go, they could have probably chopped 20 minutes out of that movie. So it was concise. The basic plot is Jamie Foxx is a cop. He's
got ties to the underworld.
He's got ties to the underworld. Let's just say a deal goes bad. His son gets kidnapped, and this is all stuff you find out in the trailer. His son gets kidnapped, and he's got a very small window to basically get his kid back before, some shit goes down.
Yep. It winds up being really decent, and the whole premise is he looks like a bad guy. He's a dirty cop. They got two people that wind up come in from internal affairs. So IA comes in, and this is why I love watching it with my wife sometimes. She goes, "Oh, that guy! It's the guy from Stranger Things." Yes, it's David Harbour. Of course, he's been in a lot of little roles like that. But yep, so he's an internal affairs officer. And they're out to capture because something bad happened and she got framed for something. So the internal affairs officers are trying to find out who these bad cops are. Well, lo and behold, Jamie Foxx and his partner come in there, and it becomes pretty obvious really quickly that Jamie Foxx looks like he's a really dirty cop.
Totally. Him and his partner. Partner, another great, another good actor. He's played by T.I. Harris, who plays Sean, who is, like I said, Jamie Foxx's partner. Michelle Monaghan's in it. She plays a cop as well. Like Dennis said, Dermot Mulroney is a casino owner, but basically doing shady things behind the scenes. David Harbour's really good in it. There's a couple twists in it I didn't see coming. Well, one I did. I don't know. It's from 2017. We should just dump it.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay.
If you haven't seen it,
it's on Netflix. It's definitely worth a watch. So it goes through, and they're trying to find it, and Spook McNairy is actually the son of what you're assuming is the drug lord who's coming,
right?
And he leveraged the drugs in order to finish this other deal, which they were shorted on, and which was done through the casino. Well, they wound up stealing
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, him and his partner wind up stealing their drugs, which creates this entire chain of events for them going after. So that's why they kidnap his son. We need those drugs back, so you're going to get your son back. And it becomes a nightmare chase scene in the casino.
Because Michelle Monaghan's character and David Harbour, cops, the detectives, just know something's up with Jamie Foxx's character and stuff. So Jamie Foxx basically hides the drugs to go get his son and basically say, you give me my kid, I'll get you the drugs.
Yep.
Because
and he hides it in the
just
casino.
Yeah, in the casino. Because he knows if he just walks up to the Dermot Mulroney's character with the drugs and says, here, shit could go sideways and he could get killed, his son gets killed, that's no good. So he uses the drugs as leverage. Well, he gets followed to the casino by Michelle Monaghan's character. She gets the drugs. So when Jamie Foxx goes back to get them, they're gone. So now Jamie Foxx has to try and figure a way to get his son back safely. She needs to figure out a way to get Jamie Foxx, and a lot of stuff just collides.
She stores it in the women's locker room, basically.
At the casino, yeah.
At the casino, and then her partner's there, and they're looking for him. Security's looking for him on all the screens, and he winds up getting shot, so he's wounded. It's action. I mean, this movie is fight, 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 action, 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 shoot him, shoot him, shoot him, with really decent dialogue and story in between. And then you start realizing pretty quickly, as the movie's progressing, you're like, because you want to hate Jamie Foxx's character.
So
he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you don't like him. But then something just starts going with you, like, all right,
something doesn't smell right here.
Something's not right. There's something more to this, and they do a good job without like just dropping in your feet. And then twist,
big twist.
And it's
not just with Jamie Foxx; it's with a couple other characters.
Yeah,
it's it's like we said, it's an hour 35. It's tight, it's concise. They trimmed out all the fat. If I gave somebody an award in this movie, it'd be the editor, because he definitely trimmed it down to the essential stuff. If you're looking for something fun to watch on a Friday, Saturday night, or any night for that matter, I definitely would check it out.
Yep, it's a good movie, and at the end, and we don't want to spoil what happens at the end, but they completely leave it up for a sequel.
Yeah, it's totally up in there. I kind of hope there is one.
I do too.
I don't think there's hopes for it, with it already being 3 years later, and there's been no talk of it. And honestly, once again, when it came out in 2017, I missed it. And I'm not trying to make it say, like, I don't miss movies, but with the amount of time I go to see movies and stuff, it's usually pretty rare for me to miss something, which means it was in and out of the theater probably rather quickly.
All right, on our grading score, what would you give it, Andy?
Oh, man, for an action movie, action suspense, God, I'd have to go like 8.7. 8.7. I'm ranking it pretty high, yeah, because it was really good. Like I said, I can't believe it's taken me 3 years to see it.
I gave it a 7.5.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid movie all the way through. Apparently, you and I liked it better than the critics did.
What did the critics give it?
Critics gave it a 34.
Get out of here. Rotten Tomato critic? What about the fans?
Metascore. And then they wound up getting a 5.6 out of 10.
For fans?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so I actually thought it was a much better movie than what the critics did. But maybe it was because you said it was good when you called, so I had to watch it. But no, seriously, I thought it was well-paced. I thought it was enjoyable. Again, just for an action film, it is absolutely worth, to me, checking out. I thought it was fun and entertaining. I mean, it's definitely no home run, but hey, if you've got time on a rainy day, it's on Netflix, give it a watch. I enjoyed all the actors that were in it.
That's very cool. All right, we haven't done strange tales in the news recently.
And I think it's time.
I think it's time too. I came across this news story. So with the whole virus going around and sports not happening, they're opening, sports haven't opened up here yet, but other countries are trying to do things to open them up. And I found a pretty fun story that in Korea, a soccer team has had to apologize for the fake people they tried to populate their stands with. Because, as of now, the slow way to get sports back is to play them with no fans. But, and I'm not quite sure I get this, I've never played sports really on any level, so I don't know if having fans in the crowd make a huge deal. I don't know. If I was playing a game, competition or whatever, I'd be so focused on the game. I don't know if I'd know the fans were there unless they were actually rooting against me, because then I'd be like, guys, I'm trying to hear. Stop with the booze.
See, and I think you would. Now, I mean, we just ran, NASCAR was here in town, and for the first time, I mean, we ran our big race here in Charlotte with no fans. Now, can you imagine? Now, I know those guys are doing 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they're listening to their crew.
Talking to them. And I know they're focused in on the road, but I know you can see it. So even with racing where you can't hear the fans nearly as much as you could in other sports, does it really have an impact? I'm going to say yes, and I would like to hear from NASCAR fans to find out. But anyway, Korea
had to apologize because the fans they put in the stands, obviously they're not real people.
They're mannequins. I'm doing air quotes.
Which is fine, because I guess if you look up and you see them, well, if they're going to put mannequins in a stand anywhere, you got to pump in some fan noise. Because if I'm just looking up and seeing cardboard cutouts and mannequins, give me some fan noise as well. So then at least in my peripheral vision, I'll see the fake people, but I'll hear the noise. Well, this Korean soccer team apologized because they loaded up their stands with sex dolls.
Yep. That is not a typo or a misprint in there. They actually did put sex dolls.
They put up sex dolls in the stands, dressed, of course. So somebody had to dress these dolls because they ordered a bunch of sex dolls. One, you gotta get sex dolls from one type of website. So that would have been my first clue if I was in charge of ordering mannequins. Two, when they all showed up and they were all female and they were all very attractive and I had to dress them, and I'm like, wow, every one of these mannequins I ordered is female and they all have pretty much the same body type and they look pretty attractive. Meh, that's the company. Let me just put the clothes on them.
But my favorite part was the team blamed the error on a quote-unquote misunderstanding with the distributor. What kind of misunderstanding could you possibly get? Yeah, we want fans for the stands. Oh, so you want female dolls with unnecessarily holy thing? Nope, we just want fans for the stands. Oh, we've got the perfect doll.
We've got the perfect ones. They've got big racks. They're curvy. They're pretty looking. And they always look like they're screaming.
Yeah, and
their mouths are agape, so they look like they're screaming.
They post pictures of them, and it's just kind of, it's funny. So most of them are brunette, and they put them in different poses. They dress them up in all different types of clothing, but it's mainly from their sports team. So, the team, and they got the little hats on and everything. So somebody took the time and dressed all these.
Well, the funny thing too is they're being careful because they also did put them in the face masks, so they don't spread the disease.
Right.
You don't want these sex dolls spreading the disease around, and they're also socially distanced as well. So that's good too. So at least when I'm playing the game, I can look up and see attractive fans cheering me on, socially distanced.
So my bigger question is, the photos are pretty funny of it, because literally there's 2 seats and then a doll, 2 seats and then a doll, 2 seats and then a doll. But they're cheering you on. Now, how did they pipe in cheering? What was the noise that they put in there? Or was it quiet, just like it was in there? You've obviously got fans. Was there any sound from these mannequins?
If they piped in the sound that these mannequins would make, it would be like, and they scored.
And I think they would get pulled off of TV. It
and
just
they scored
makes
again.
No sense. Yes, the supplier did respond and say, well, these were not intended for use as sex dolls. They weren't intended for sexual use. They just have all the proper equipment for such things.
Right, of course.
So I'm just wondering how much they paid for these dolls to put in the stands.
Too much.
How much did they have to blow them up?
And I doubt they're returnable.
Did they? And how many crates were they?
If they're used, they're definitely not returnable.
Yeah, this is just
COVID's wrong. The last thing I'm worried about catching from a sex doll.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, well, that's just it. There's the next question. Were they used dolls or were they brand new? Maybe they got them cheaper because they were slightly used.
I don't know. We'll post that. We'll post up on our Facebook page so you guys can check out the article.
Yeah. yeah, you kind of just have to see it and shake your head. But hey, to each their own, I guess.
I guess so.
Well, we'll post the on our Facebook page. You can always leave comments there or email us at DennisandAndyShow@yahoo.com. And, well, until then, I guess we'll catch you next time.
All right, see you next week.
Until next week, grab your 3D glasses.
Get your favorite comic books, roll them up, and put them in your back pocket the way you should treat comics.
Throw your pigskin up on the mantle. This is Dennis.
This is Andy. Later, friends.